Thank you, Greg. Like Greg mentioned, today I'm going to discuss franchises and specifically buying existing stores versus buying into a franchise and opening a new store. They're both good avenues to pursue, but there's some subtle differences. So I'll cover them today. It's important for a buyer who's interested in getting into a franchise to choose the right brand to invest in. The wrong brand can really be a big disaster financially. So it's more than just, hey, I eat Subway every day, so I want to open up a Subway. It really has to fit your skill set and your background. For example, getting back to franchise food service operations, those tend to be 7-day-a-week operations. They tend to have quite a high or heavy employee count. So people skills are very important, and you really have to be the kind of person who enjoys working afternoons and evenings. If you're a morning person, maybe not much of a people person, things to look into would be B2B franchises. And there's actually quite a few of them, but we don't see them that often because we're not usually patronizing a B2B type operation. So one more really important thing that people sometimes don't get is you have to qualify financially for the franchise. So every franchise has different numbers. So for example, Menchie's, which is a frozen yogurt brand, they require a minimum net worth of $350,000. And so oftentimes you also see a liquid capital requirement as well. For example, at $350,000, they might require $100,000 liquid. So if you don't qualify for the numbers, you can definitely cross that off your list and keep looking at other franchises, because franchisors tend to be pretty particular and they want to have people qualified financially and also experience-wise. You'll see some of the higher-end brands are very particular with industry experience. And if you have a brand like that, then again, same thing, if you don't have the industry experience, you have to look elsewhere. Once you've narrowed down franchise brands that you're interested in investing in and you're considering then buying an existing store, then it's an important time to really investigate the local market to see what's going on. So number one, you want to see in your area, are more stores being opened or are more stores closing? Now typically if you see more stores closing, it's not really a good thing because that means something's wrong. The only case it might actually be a good thing is if a lot of bad operators are being booted out of the system because they're not in compliance and they're kind of ruining the brand. Even that's a little bit tricky because then the brand needs some repairing. But definitely if you see more units being opened, that's almost always a good thing, but not necessarily. Sometimes you have a franchisor that's more interested in their needs than the franchisee's needs, and you're going to see that they're opening up a storefront at every corner. Well, that sounds great, but then again, by the time you open up your store, all the sales are cannibalized and you're not making enough sales to survive. So it's important to find a franchise that's really striking the right balance. Slow, measured growth. That's really the best thing to look for. Also, when you're looking into franchises, it's also kind of important to see, and once you're inside the system and approved by the franchisor, you can get in and really talk to some of the local franchisees and find out their experience. Hearing it firsthand really is definitely key. Now, if you found an existing store, it's time to basically begin the process of actually buying it. And that gets involved in negotiating a purchase agreement. And a purchase agreement involves a whole lot of things, the price, the terms, but there's specific things about buying an existing franchise that are very important. Number one, there's almost always a franchise transfer fee, anywhere from maybe a few $1,000s up to maybe $20,000 or $25,000. The first question you're going to want to find out is who's going to pay for that. And that's totally negotiable. So if you're negotiating your contract, you can definitely try to put it in there that maybe you'll split that 50-50 with the seller. Also, another thing you want to find out in the process is the franchisor going to require some upgrades when you take over? That could be the reason why the seller's selling. Maybe they're requiring another $70,000 of upgrades, and all of a sudden the seller doesn't want to pull that money out of his pocket and he wants to sell. So you need to find that out during the process of negotiating the purchase price, because obviously it's a big consideration in how you're going to structure your offer. Kind of once you've finished up and you've actually agreed with your purchase price, then it's time to begin due diligence. And the beauty of buying an existing franchise versus buying in and opening a new franchise is when you're buying a new franchise, the franchisor cannot give you any profit promises or guarantees or any statements basically. So you're kind of flying in blind. If you're buying an existing store, it's going to have existing numbers, financials you can look at, and you'll see exactly what that store is doing currently. And there's another big side benefit to that, is that if the store has actual existing numbers, you have a higher probability of actually getting a bank loan for it, because a bank can see, hey, the last 3 years it's been profitable so much and we can give you a loan for so much. That's definitely a big distinction and a big motivating factor for people to buy in to an actual existing location versus trying to open a new location. Something important is it's not just simple, make your purchase agreement, do your homework, and then take over the next day. There's actually a big time frame to buying into an existing franchise, because the franchisor is going to require training. It's important to find out early in the process, is training going to be at their corporate location, which could be out of state, or are you going to be trained at the actual store? And if training is somewhere out of state on a schedule, the next training might not be for 6 weeks, which means you can't take over for at least another 6 weeks. That's important to try to find out as early in the process as possible so you can project when you're going to take over.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony.